And we're live on the 5th Just Boxing podcast. Troops, thank you for joining us today. My name's Ryan. I'm with my co-host, my dad, Paul. And today we've got a number of things that we want to actually talk about, guys. There's a few boxing headlines. What we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of minutes worth of admin because there's quite a few things to get through on each video, and we want to make sure you know what it's going to be about, alright? Saves wasting your time as well. How you doing, Dad?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Great.
Good. Dad's doing a lot of research behind the scenes on this stuff as well, so yeah, credit to you for all of that information that you bring.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is boxing headlines. Amir Khan's retirement. That's quite a big, juicy topic, actually. Maybe Dad's got quite a lot to say. We've followed Amir Khan, well, since the amateurs, really, when I was boxing.
Years, for years,
so
yeah.
This is quite a big deal for British boxing, I think, and world boxing, you know. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we're going to go on to the Cruiserweight Boxer Series with a double X. It's a Sky Sports event. It's similar to the prize fight.
I'm looking forward to this, man. This is going to be really, really exciting, I tell you. Tomorrow night, you've got a great lineup of local lads. You've had lads who's experienced, and some lads down to only having one fight and 2 fights, 3 fights. So I mean, and they're fighting for a prize pot of £40,000, I think it is, for the winner, and also they get a contract in with that if they're successful enough to win it. So yeah, that's tomorrow night. So we're looking forward to that, big style.
So it's a pretty big deal for local fighters.
It's a big deal. It's a massive deal for these young lads.
Yeah,
it's a massive deal. We'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Loads to say on that. Actually, whilst we're on that subject, there's something so that's going to be tomorrow. We'll talk a bit about it today. We're going to be doing quite a bit of coverage on that tomorrow, in fact. So there'll be potentially a number of videos comes out the woodworks for that, because there's a lot we want to say on individual fighters as well.
Absolutely.
I don't know, you're thinking about doing a bit of a boxing profile on Jack Fair?
Yeah, well, I've heard a bit about this lad. I've looked into this this young lad who he's had one fight and one draw, which doesn't really suggest on paper that he poses much of a threat in this tournament. But you just never know, man. You never know. And he's got a great story. There's a great story behind this young lad. He he's had some hard times, man. Mm-hmm. He was started off in care. He was put in care, and he fought his way through there. And I think it was one of the key workers who is one of his care workers in there, introduced him to a boxing coach, and took up his amateur career and led him to this point today. Yeah. It's looking really good, and to be honest, he's got a little girl there, and he said, listen, if I can win this money, I think his heart's in it to win this money, to set up a trust fund for his little girl, which is it's wonderful, isn't it, really? So
what we've got there is quite a similar story and dynamic to some of the more famous boxers, your Mike Tysons and various other boxers, guys who's had struggles, and they've had a story to tell. And from what I've found from personal experience and what I've experienced in the wider circle of boxing, those who have a hardship story as such normally end up being quite special. So we're kind of hoping that we're onto something with this lad. So we're going to do a bit of a profile on him tomorrow, because we know he's got a great story, and if he wins the season, hey,
it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? It would be. And I mean, don't get us wrong, these are the lads who's in this tournament. They're in it to win it as well. They want that prize pot, and more than just the money. Well, having said that, 40 grand's a lot of money. More than just the money, it's this contract. I think it's a 6-fight Sky deal contract. What they get off it with that.
Who will that? Will that be through Eddie Hearn then? Will it?
Well, whoever's promoting it, yeah, I would imagine it. Well, I'm not too sure who it's going to be through, but I know it's with Sky, and they sign a 6-fight deal, and it's good, isn't it? It's all good.
Great opportunity. So we'll talk a bit about him on a few videos coming up, guys.
Absolutely.
And the last thing I think we're going to hit on, now we do divulge into other bits of information on the channel, guys. As you know, we can talk for England, but I think it's a fair one if we can finish on Deontay Wilder.
Oh, wow,
Some pretty interesting news come out that we've actually neglected over the past week or so.
Yeah, I think everybody's done that, dude. I think everybody's overlooking this guy, but apparently he's they're throwing him in line to fight for the WBC title. I mean, how or when or where he's going to get, how he's going to get that, I don't know. Unless Mr. Fury's got something up his sleeve. Man, he's a great man, Tyson Fury, and he might, you just don't know. I think he's always said, hasn't he? Let's be honest. He's always said that the next best heavyweight to me in the world at this moment in time is, without a doubt, Deontay Wilder. He's still there, man. He's still there.
You've got to agree with that statement. So I think
he's still there, man.
If there's anything that Tyson Fury would do, it's stuff like that, because he's not a guy who would beat you down, beat you when
absolutely
you're down.
Not.
He's the type of guy who, if he can help you out, he will. And although he was his greatest foe in the 3 fights that they had, if there's anyone who can bring Deontay Wilder back to his feet to glory, I think it's actually Tyson Fury, if I'm honest with you.
3 bloody good fights, man.
Fantastic.
That'll go down in history and watched over and over again.
Yeah.
So yes, they have got this mutual. They've got this respect for each other, having the deep down. I mean, I know Fury will. God, there's that many stories about Tyson and his generosity, and like his dad said, he said, he couldn't pass a stray pigeon in the street without going buying it something to eat and feeding it.
Well,
that's Tyson Fury, man. That sums that man up.
He's my type of guy.
He's wonderful.
So first things first, then, guys. That's that. Every video will have a little bit of admin time.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to listen to them bits, then just skip forward 5 minutes or so. But brings us on to our first topic then, Dad. Amir Khan has announced the end of his boxing career and after defeat against Kell Brook. Now, we knew in our heart that this was something that was on the cards, right?
Yeah,
surely,
absolutely. And to be honest, I think it's come at the right time. Because above all else, all right, he's had 6 losses. So what? He's won 34, lost 6. He's had 40 fights, and you look at his record. Just for instance, I've got them here. He's lost.
I'm just looking at them here actually.
So Kell Brook, Terence Crawford, Saul Alvarez, Danny Garcia, Lamont Peterson, and Bradis Prescott, whatever you call that. Yeah. Them 6 bloody good fighters, man.
I agree, and for having a glass chin, as they would say, getting those defeats on your record, it's not bad, is it? Like getting beaten by them. Bearing in mind he's beaten. Did you see the people that he overthrown? He put, like, people forget about him smashing Barrera and stuff like that.
It was a great fight.
He actually beat living legends,
Barrera, and there's a good few more names on there who he's done over. So he started all right. You know what? Let's be honest, the lad did all right, didn't he? And he was top draw, man.
He did definitely all right.
He was top draw, and he was loved.
Olympic
they loved him.
Gold medalist.
He sold tickets, man. He sold many tickets.
So I actually found out via Twitter. I was on Twitter today. I've got his statement up here, actually, guys. If you haven't heard it, this is what he said. So Amir Khan said, "It's time to hang up my gloves. I feel blessed to have had such an amazing career that has spanned over 27 years. I want to say a heartfelt thanks and to the incredible teams I have worked with, and to my family, friends and fans for the love and support they have shown me."
Take my hat off to him, man. I really do. He was fantastic.
So, this is the thing, man. British boxer. You can say, well, he went and conquered America and stuff like that, but he conquered the world before even turning pro in the Olympics. Sorry, he wasn't a gold medalist. He was a silver medalist.
He was a silver medalist.
That's corrected, guys.
That's right.
He got beat off the Cuban, didn't he?
Absolutely, and an outstanding Cuban.
But he beat him as a young professional. Well, is that right?
I'm not 100% sure if they fought in the professional ranks. I'm not quite sure.
I think he got his victory back from in his early career. Let us know in the comments, guys, on that. Actually, I'm pretty sure he did beat him in the professionals.
Well, I'm not sure about that, man, but we'll have to check it up on the box rec. But one thing I do know, he's entertained a lot of people for a long time, and you know what? He's kind of come out of this unscathed. I'm saying unscathed. I hope he has, because he's took on his last fight with Brook, it was a bit of a brawl, man. It was a bit of a brawl. blood there. You know, we all know Brook retired as well. He's retired and Khan's retired. They're both out the picture now. Well, like we spoke about this in early videos, it's never say never with boxing.
Not when you've reached that level.
If they've reached that level and somebody comes out with a fight that they might think, well, you know, and they can earn a few quid from it. Why not? And we are always saying this.
As long as it's exhibition
stuff.
They get to fight the likes of
on the Jake Paul circus.
Jake Paul because people,
please no, not tonight, man.
I know where that goes. We're keeping Jake Paul out.
For later, we'll keep him for later when we want a bit of a laugh.
But Amir Khan, just going through the. I mean, this is a Sky Sports news headline here. It's just talking a little bit about his career. I think it's only fair that we that I read a little bit of it so we can actually talk on that topic. Now, Khan unified world titles at super lightweight and faced pound for pound stars Saul Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford during a 40-fight career, featuring 34 wins and 6 defeats. Dad,
it's phenomenal.
We can't sometimes zoned in on the Floyd Mayweather records.
Yes, you do, and I don't like that.
But how many professionals do you know? There's loads of professionals out there who've had 1 or 2 defeats in 20, 30, 40 fights who we haven't even heard of, man.
See that man there? That man right there. He retired and he had 4. Well, like you can name his defeat. He had 4 defeats or 5 defeats. Was it including Trevor Burbeck, which was his last fight. The Holmes fight, Burbeck, Frazier, Norton, and that's it.
Was that it? No, there was 5. He got beat off 5 people, didn't he?
So you've got you had Frazier who beat him the first time.
Frazier, yeah.
Ken Norton beat him.
Frazier, Norton, yeah.
Yeah, and you had
Spinks.
Oh, all right, okay, yeah, that was to win the titles back. That's the 5th one. Spinks, Burbeck, and Larry Holmes. That's correct.
5. I knew it was 5.
So this man was classed as the greatest heavyweight of all time,
and he's only one more loss behind this guy. And let's face it,
absolutely.
Did he have to? Bearing in mind Amir Khan's performance against Brook. Amir Khan quite easily, based on whether or not he was finished or not, how he performed in the Brook fight, tells me that he
didn't want it.
If it wasn't about money, he didn't need that fight.
No,
right?
no,
he was finished, right?
Finished,
He didn't have nothing to offer, man.
I never in a million years thought that fight would ever come off. I don't think anybody did. But out of the blue, this is happening. Should have happened years prior, but it didn't.
Think about it, right? They've both retired, so do you not think some promoter somewhere is getting their heads together and go, listen guys, you're at your end, you're both talking about retirement anyway, let's have a big British box off. It'll give you both a good payday. If you're sensible with it, you'll probably be able to live off it for the rest of your life and never have to step foot in a boxing ring again. Whoever was behind that idea, needs a bit of a golden handshake as far as I'm concerned, because remember the days when boxers would go out on a retirement fight with nothing.
Oh God, aye.
With nothing. I mean, we've got Jack Johnson and them having to fight for peanuts just to Sonny Liston.
Oh, he ended up in a casino listing. Doing bits of this, bits of that, and they said he was mob ruled and all the rest of it, and all his career they're saying, he threw the second fight of that listing in clear. But you're right what you're saying. Some of these boxers end up really, if they haven't got a headpiece on them, or they haven't got backing and people behind them who can steer them forward in life for the money that they've earned. I mean, I know I could tell you, I've read autobiographies on fighters that would make you cry. What I've read, and
fighters of all,
legendary fighters, the likes of Wilfredo Benitez and different ones. These guys ended up with nothing. Even Gerald McLennan.
Well, Gerald McLennan was a freak accident.
A freak, yeah. Well, yes, but still. But still, afterwards, I mean, did they look after the money well enough to be able to care for them in later life, whether they were injured or not? I know it was a terrible thing.
I know what you're saying. What you're saying is this man should have had enough money
behind him.
But,
yeah,
you know, the medical system in the US is different, Dad. You know,
do you know we
kettle of fish
we going
there.
off the topic a little bit, and I can talk about that again at some point later on. McLennan wasn't supposed to take that last fight with Ben. The doctors knew he'd had problems.
He sustained something before that fight, didn't he? So Ben got a lot of the backlash off that injury, but
he sustained. He was told
he didn't injure him in the fight.
No,
right? That just brought it out.
By his doctors, they said, look, do not fight again. You cannot fight again. If you get one shot, the wrong shot, it could be proved fatal. And his camp, Gerald McLennan's camp, went against all that. Well, with the help of Gerald, because Gerald stated that he thought fighting Nigel Benn, I don't know what the exact figure was, 4 million, 4 million, 5 million.
Money though, right?
McLennan thought he would he said, listen, it's all right, it's not a risk.
It's not a risk.
It's not a risk.
We all know Nigel Benn's a warrior.
And the lad come over here and took a risk with Nigel Benn, and he unfortunately, he took the wrong risk at that time and should never really have fought. But
it's one of these shoulda, coulda, woulda. Boxing is full of them stories.
Bless him. And Michael Watson,
great fighters, but these are just some of the fantastic legends that some people watching this might never have heard of. Gerald McLennan.
No, well, we'll talk about that later on, and that's another thing. We'll talk about these fighters and this, that, and the other. But Larry Holmes, and he was another one I like to give credit to. I loved Larry Holmes. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, but he also had a great business head on him. When he fought, he used to put his purses away and he used to buy property and this, that, and the other. He built his own house where he lived, and he looked after his money well. He looked after it, and not many of them did do that, mind. Many of them did that.
You got to look at it a little bit deeper. It's a little bit like, from my experience, the military has certain catchment groups for certain types of jobs. And boxing's exactly the same. Normally the catchment group for the elite level fighters, unfortunately, a lot of them come from hardship. And that money management thing, having a bit of brain in the head, that's why I have to give credit to Floyd Mayweather amidst everyone hating him. He's got a good business brain, and if that's debatable, he's certainly surrounded himself with good business people to make these good decisions, because
you better believe it.
He's done all right, and a lot of these boxers fall foul of the lifestyle. A lot of them fall foul of the money. You got to think about this, right? Think about this, man. Nigel Benn, Ilford born, Essex boy, no money, poor family, joined the army. Product of
just a squatty one.
Product of his anger came from the fact that his brother got killed. I don't want to go too deep.
He did. He fell through a roof. He thought
that. He believes, and he spoke about this. He says that he was killed by racists, and that's what he holds that in his heart. But
Nigel,
that being said, that anger, that poverty, it all had a story. That ferocity wasn't just there. You don't just have that ferocity.
Kind of hatred.
It's made from a young age, and
I don't know, mind his son, young Conor Benn. There, he's got that fire. He's got that warrior fire.
He's got that,
but he hasn't got that.
Can he go into the trenches with someone who's also got that fire, though?
Nigel, his dad, was in some pretty sticky situations in the ring, and I've seen it many times with him, and he just pulled it out, man. And he pulled it out because of his absolute desire to win, and he carried some venom in his shots. Nigel Benn did.
So here we go then. We're talking about Nigel Benn, right? Nigel Benn, Conor Benn. I'm telling you, Conor Benn is a better technical boxer.
Absolutely,
than Nigel
I
Benn.
agree with you, 1,000,000%.
And believe it or not, his ferocity is part of his style, but it's not the main reason he's getting so many positive victories. Whereas Nigel Benn was ferocious. His skill was lacking, and he had some hard fights due to the fact that he lacked technical skill. I don't think Conor Benn has actually came up against someone with the ferocity, who, like his dad, like he holds himself, Once he does, that's when we'll see whether or not that ferocity that he holds is actually part of his style, or if it's part of his character.
I know we're veering off the track from one thing to another at the moment, but one thing leads to the other in boxing. Do you understand?
Yeah, but think about that. Are we going to see the real Conor Benn when he gets up against a Warrior? That's what I'm saying. Is it just part of his style because his dad was like that? Because Nigel Benn was used to going into the trenches, and we knew that wasn't just part of his style, that was part of his heart and his character.
He loved to fight, Nigel, and he openly admitted it, and he would put himself in some pretty dangerous situations with punching from way down and hooking up, and instead of covering up, he would blast you, man. He would go to blast you. Look, Nigel Benn, he's 2 world titles, right? Doug Dewitt, the first one, WBO. That newly formed WBO at the time, Doug Dewitt. And now Doug Dewitt, he was a tremendous fighter. He'd had a tremendous fight with Tommy Hearns. Just lost out to Tommy Hearns and other fighters. And Barkley, fought Barkley. And anyway, he wins the title and kind of he moves on from that, Nigel. But then again, he was a WBC against Iran Barkley.
Iran Barkley just came off some phenomenal victories as well, mate.
He smashed Tommy Hearns to bits.
He
smashed Thomas Hearns to bits.
No one smashes Tommy Hearns to bits unless you're Marvin Hagler, of course. But I tell you, no one does that there, Tommy.
No, and I'm thinking to myself, and listen, and I'll tell you now, I had a bet on Nigel Benn at 33-1. I'm not going to tell you how much I had on. It wasn't a great deal, but I got a canny bit back.
£5.
That Nigel Benn would knock him out in the first round, and the 3 knockdown rule was in play. I think was it Carlos Padilla who was the referee at the time? I think it was. And they called a halt to the bout because he put Barkley down 3 times, and that was it. He'd won. But
he was knocking him out though, wasn't he?
But listen, after that fight, right? This is what the point I'm trying to make. After that fight, there was some shouting going on about him fighting Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns and that, and Hearns and them didn't want Leonard didn't want I didn't want to fight Ben. But there was another fighter at the time, and I was thinking, please, Nigel, don't fight him. Michael Nunn, they called him. Now, if you have a look at Michael Nunn's profile, Nunn was a masterful boxer, and you know what? Ben would have had to have clocked him to win it, because Nunn, I don't know, man. But what I'm saying is, was Ben lucky in a sense that he always seemed to fight the men who wanted to come on and fight him.
Blimey,
the bangers.
I've just pulled Michael Nunn's boxing record up here.
Oh man, come on.
So we're talking about good records.
At the time, he held the other version of the title.
I remember watching him, actually. He was
phenomenal.
Great. He had 58 fights, 4 defeats with 37 knockouts. He finished his boxing career with 37 knockouts. Not too long after his boxing career was over, Nunn was arrested in his hometown. What? So a bit
yes,
of a
he
naughty
was.
boy.
Yes, he was. But then again, we can talk about these later on, past and present. But there's a story to tell about them all. I know quite a lot. I read when I was a young lad of all the history of boxing, and more importantly, I digested more about the old time fighters. I loved them. I just loved the fact that boxing gives people opportunities, less people from lesser backgrounds. You know, come here, son, put these gloves on. The poor little lad's he's come from a poor background, but he can have some money in his pocket, and he can fight. It gives people a chance, man. And it's
a useful outlet for those who it can be useful to.
Absolutely, you know, it's a way out. It's a way out for some people.
Now, talking about a way out, I think that brings us on nicely to Jack Fair, Jamie Smith. Jack Fair, right? Jamie Smith, they're fighting in this boxer series tournament tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Jamie Smith, he's fighting. He's got 3 wins, 2 by knockout, no defeats. Jack Smith, 1-0-1. All right, so.
I'm just
going to read.
Jack Fair. Yeah.
I'll just read this. Now, apparently Jamie Smith is, the emerging favourite. He says the hugely successful amateur and rapidly rising professional Jamie Smith has emerged as a potential favourite to take victory in this edition of the Boxer Series. Smith is a disciplined, come-forward fighter, wisely able to put pressure on an opponent while also not overly exposing himself to potential counter-attack. He has a strong jab, but can also do efficient work at closer ranges. haven't found stoppages with medium-range hooks, which, the medium-range hooks, if you can throw them inside, you can do a lot of damage with them things. He's already looking good in his early professional career, according to this. Now, Jack Fair is coming into this tournament, having already had to fight.
One fight and one draw.
This is this is amazing.
This is what makes it exciting,
yeah,
man.
But I tell you what makes it even more exciting to me. It's talking about Jack Fair comes into this tournament having already had to fight homelessness.
Yes, absolutely.
In the last 2 years.
This is what I spoke about earlier on. It's heart-wrenching, and it's not just this guy here. I'll be watching this with massive interest tomorrow. I really, really will. And there's lots of people in his shoes at this moment in time.
This is exciting, man. He had his 2 fights whilst he was homeless.
What?
Whilst he was a professional, in that same time he was fighting homelessness.
He had nowhere to go.
He's
Nowhere to live.
Aggressive power puncher who doesn't mind trading blows with his opponent. He's right. This has
got all the makings of a Rocky story, man.
When you think about it, right? You talking about a guy. We can't look at his defeat then as a defeat. The man's fighting homelessness and he's getting into the professional. Into the boxing ring and fighting really good, credible individuals.
Did we speak earlier, or did we not, about this exact example of what's going to happen tomorrow night in this series? With Jack Dempsey was exactly the same. He was a hobo. He was fighting on the streets for it.
You need look. There's one term. There's one thing that gets mentioned in boxing an awful lot,
hungry,
and it's the main thing I feel that. Once you lose it, you're a beat man. A hungry fighter is a dangerous fighter.
Absolutely.
And I tell you something, guys, that saying in boxing terms doesn't just mean you got to be hungry for boxing. It really does go back to the ages when your Jack Dempseys, the Manasseh Moore, and all of these individuals, right, were fighting as well as working just to get something to eat. And we might not be able to.
And I'll tell you, we cannot grasp that.
Because, no, it's not the case, but it is the case.
And I'll tell you something. John Fury, not Fooey, as I said the other day. Let's say his teeth are kind of... Anyway, John Fury has a very similar background because... If you watch some of his fights that are on YouTube, right? Okay, yeah. And he's been in with this one, he's been in with that one, and different ones, and some big names in boxing, mind. He's been in, and he stepped up at the last minute. John Fury was coming off a bloody building site, man. He'd done a day's graft.
This is where people are too quick to jump to conclusions by saying that he lost
absolutely.
fights. But, we're not giving... Look, we're not there to give credit, all right?
But
at the same time, we're foolish if we think that this is a man who is... you don't just have someone like Tyson Fury.
Absolutely.
People forget this, right? People forget. Who was Tyson Fury? He had a lot of influence on his earlier career as well. He might have done jail time and stuff, but Tyson Fury's dad and his uncle had major influences on how his boxing career went, with his style, with what he was taught. And another thing with boxers, it's not just what you're taught physically. It's the mindset. It's how you can mentor. And I think... His dad is a better mentor.
Absolutely, 100,000,000%.
Do you understand?
Million%.
It's what he can do to the brain. Mike Tyson was created off a mentor, Customato,
And John Fury was, going off John Fury's background, right? And the fights he had and the fights that I've watched, and you get a lot of these Mickey takers. Oh, John Fury, I'll tell you what, you fucking get in the ring with that man. You get in the ring with the same guy.
Look, there's not a lot of young men. Honestly, there's not a lot of young men up and coming would be too keen on fighting. You might, tell you what, you might get the best of him, but I tell you what, you're going to get roughed up in there. And I've seen this happen before, right? Not necessarily in the boxing ring, but I've seen young, fit, healthy lads in the military, on the streets, in different social circles. Think that they can, he's an older bloke, this guy, and I tell you something, they get caught out. Not all the time. You stand a youthful chance, but I tell you something, some of these older dudes can catch you out big time.
So basically, what I'm trying to say is, he hasn't had Tyson Fury. Oh, he's just become a fucking legend on his own. No, he's come from. I know John Fury. He's made jokes. He's come from my nutsack and all the rest of it. But John's telling you exactly how it is, and he's
the same cloth.
He's forged and he's planted seeds in Tyson from being very, very... And Tyson will have watched videos on his dad and saying, fucking hell, Dad's been in with this one, Dad's been in. But what Tyson will probably know now, what he didn't know when he was a little lad, that his dad's coming off, like you say, a building site, shoveling concrete and filling skips. And
on 3-day benders on the booze and drugs, like he said,
And then he gets a phone call, John, can you fight such and such? I'll fight him. You what? John Fury, straight in the ring with him, have a go, win, lose or draw, but he's there, mate, and he steps through the ropes, and that's why you've got to love him, man. You've got to love him.
You've got to judge the character of an individual,
and I'll tell you,
prepared to do something at their worst.
Absolutely,
it's something. It's slightly off topic with regards a comparison, but in the Royal Marines, we prided ourselves. Anyone can perform. Any athlete can perform physically when they have had a good night's sleep and a full tummy, and they've had a sports massage. But how do you perform when you've got an empty stomach, you've been awake for 3 days, and you got 120-pound burden on your back, and your feet are cut to bits? How are you going to perform then? Because you're expected to perform like an athlete still. And I tell you something, the fittest guys drop off the map when it's called adversity. All right, how do you perform when you are going through adversity?
You tell me, you've done that, you've been there. No, I don't know.
But this is the thing, you've got to look at fighters who are going through adversity, how they're performing right now. And that's why, going back to what we were talking about, the boxer series.
This kid,
that's why I favour Jack Fair, even though he's had one fight, one defeat. That's why I favour him, the power puncher, to be able to come from this and put food on the table for his family.
If that lad can do this, looking on the records of that Ellis Zorro and them 11-0, the Liverpool lad Jay Farrell, he's on 9-2, 5 KOs. I'm looking and thinking, why, hang on, there's a massive, there's two stands out immensely as looking to win this, and then you look at Jack Fair and the record just it's not there. And that Ryan Cottrell, he's 1-0, and now they're saying big things about him. Man, this is fantastic. I can't wait for this.
Yeah,
I hope you join in. I'm doing a live commentary on this, and I'll tell you, I'll blow the roof off with this, mind.
I think it'll be good.
I'll blow the roof off with this, I'm telling you.
So that's that for tomorrow, Dad. Let's get on to final point.
Oh, go for it.
Right, so this is
something else come out, yeah.
There's an article written by a guy called Chris Brannan. It was on 26th of April. So a little bit, not too far ago. But it's the other headlines that's coming out. The drip feeding information, which tells me that the priming for this to happen. Now, Deontay Wilder should face the winner of Usyk, and Joshua says Tyson Fury. What do you make of that?
I think Tyson's basically saying, Deontay, please don't retire yet. Get in there, kick their asses, get the belts, get what you duly deserve. Because it's like you say, Tyson's not a bad person. And yes, Tyson's going to be known as the top man. He's done Wilder. He's done him 3 times as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but you know how people are.
But
they're short to forget. People have got crap
it only takes
one spectacular
that man to come back
for him to be back on
if
top.
He comes back, which he won't, and God, when I watch them fights back again and some of Wilder's fights, and I seen he's ripping, his punches they were frightening, man.
He's a frightening
individual, and
one of the most fearsome fight. You know how it is, and if you've been around the boxing scene, Mike Tyson he created an atmosphere of fear. But you didn't necessarily fear what he would do to you as much as what
intimidation.
Wilder.
He was the king.
He was an intimidator.
He was the king of intimidation.
But I'll tell you something. Even if you weren't intimidated off Wilder, I'm telling you, them punches, what he could do to
whistling past your
I don't even like describing it this way.
Whistling past your head and your ears,
crush your skull and make you have a seizure on the floor. That's one phenomenal animal. That is we've never seen that in boxing for a long time.
I watched the second or third of last fight he had. Sorry, with Luis Ortiz, the fucking King Kong of the heavyweights as a Cuban, and Ortiz was really giving it to Wilder. And I'm thinking, right, okay, and I'm fucking hell, Wilder 4 rounds, 5 rounds, what's happening here? Wilder's looking, what the hell's happened to Wilder? This, that, and the other. Boom! And that man didn't know where he was at. One shot come out of nowhere and just... He must have thought, have I run into a double-decker bus or something there? But that's exactly what Wilder can do. And he could have done that with Fury at any point. Well, he did. He landed bombs on Fury, and Fury just said, hey, right, okay, and got back up. How? I don't know.
Because your punch resilience is...
I do not know.
There's a definite link with your stature, your punch resilience. And he fought the biggest... He fought a giant in the division, you know. Now, you think of this, Dad.
He's a bloody giant himself, isn't he?
Well, this is the thing which scares me. Right, we seen the size difference with him and Anthony Joshua. I pray that Anthony Joshua wins the fight against Usyk, because what we're going to see in a fight with Deontay Wilder against Usyk is a man who a blown up cruiserweight get absolutely
hurt,
diabolically hurt. I mean,
that fight should never happen.
It's one thing getting hit
as
a 16, 17, 18 stone mammoth. Now,
if Usyk's got any brains, he'll steer the fuck away from that man.
Well, you think about this, right? What's Usyk going to be able to do? Not if, when he detonates one of them punches on Usyk, when Deontay Wilder even connects with a half a punch.
Well,
he was cut up bad, man, when he fought Joshua.
He was banged up.
He can shit on Joshua all he wants.
Yeah, he
came out looking horrendous after that fight. He got the decision, I tell you, he worked through the trenches to get that. Now, I think
he's banged up, man.
That is the best you'll see of Usyk. You're not going to see anything better, anything more from him.
No.
Have a look back on the fight. The fight doesn't lie. The man was cut to shreds, Dad.
He was, I've seen it,
which tells me that Anthony Joshua
was
getting a lot of success. He just didn't capitalise on it in the way he could. And the way he can is with brute force power that Anthony Joshua can do. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Anthony Joshua, but you give him credit. When he turns that on, he can get you out of there. He got everyone out of there.
When he turns nasty, has he got that nasty streak still in him now at this moment in time with 400 million in the bank or whatever? I didn't know.
It's the money thing, but honestly, let's talk. I hope he wins, because he puts up a better fight against Deontay Wilder, who I genuinely believe still. I think he puts AJ away in one round. Now, people might go, "You idiot, Dad." Anthony Joshua gets put away in one round of Deontay Wilder.
You said that for a long time, haven't you?
Because what he does is he gets out there. Deontay Wilder starts like an absolute animal, and he's throwing leather from the start. And what's AJ doing against that? He's doing. He's covering up and he's getting knocked out.
I know that's viable, but having said that, in the third Fury fight, I saw a different Wilder mind. I seen him taking his time. He was using the jab. He was using the jab, jabbing the body.
He was composed.
Bump, jabbing, jab the body, standing off a bit.
I was impressed.
He did not throw as many right hands as people thought he would. But the right hands he did throw were. Man, he caught Fury on the top of the forehead coming in.
Oh, it was a horrendous shot.
You saw the ripple run down his front of his body, down through his legs, out to the fucking ring. That's what Tyson said. The whole volcano, the earthquake went through him and out the other side.
Unbelievable.
And you see at the end of the fight, he's got this fucking bruise on the front of his head, and I'm thinking, what the?
He took it, man.
And Wilder, again, must have been thinking,
what do I do?
I cannot do anything with
It's just a freak of nature who he's fought, but you know something, Dad? Honest to God, I genuinely think, right, this might sound crazy. Alexander Usyk is a technical genius, and he can annoy you. He's like a chess player who you can't get hold of. Whereas Fury, the bigger guy,
did he have nearly close to 300 amateur fights, Usyk, or something?
These Ukrainians, man, are unbelievable. I think they're all hard fights for AJ. I think. I don't know. Listen. The easiest. They need to happen. All three of them people need to be in the mix together.
At this moment in time, the easiest fight out of the lot for AJ is to have a rematch with Usyk.
I think so.
Because on paper, it's the easiest fight for him to just go in, have a rematch, and if he works behind a good plan. I mean, I don't know. Has he still got McCracken? Rob McCracken in the corner. Get rid of him, man.
Honestly,
get rid of him.
Respectfully,
get rid of him.
Fantastic coach, right? Fantastic resume.
Get rid of him.
Honest to God, what's he doing with him still? What's he doing with him? Go and get a professional boxing coach. I don't know, ask Teddy Atlas or go. You know what I would do, right?
Atlas, Roach, people.
You know how I would have? Go straight to the opposition. I'd be asking that what you call him from the Kronk gym who's just trained Tyson Fury. Hey, can you help us out here? Because I tell you something. How effective would that Kronk style would suit Joshua more than it suited the 7 foot tall giant Fury? Do you know? In boxers, sometimes in their time in their life, sometimes things happen for, and not necessarily to end the careers or make them more. I'll give you an example. You don't know this fighter. You might have heard of him. You might not. His name was Dennis Andrews. Yes.
Right. He was a British fighter, and he won the world title. He won it a couple of times. And the was cruiserweight, I think it was, or light heavy, one of the two. But he had some epic fights. Anyway, he fought Tommy Hearns. Right, and Hearns came over and Hearns battered him down, and Andrews was getting up and keep getting up, and the fight was eventually stopped in the later rounds. I don't know, 11th or 12th round. And you know what Manny Stewart said after that fight? He couldn't believe. He says, I've seen Tommy batter him, hit him with shots and batter him. The man was getting up, he says, and I said that Andrews, come to my stable, and he took him. And he went on to fight and win.
So it works.
And Dennis Andrews wasn't the greatest technician ever, but Manny Stewart helped him to further his greatness.
Here's what I want to ask you. Quick rapid fire. Here is out. 2 seconds.
Yes.
In its shortest, simplest way possible, because I want this logged for one, and I want to hear what people have to say in the comments.
Throw your comments. Throw us your comments.
Short, quickly, who wins out of Usyk and Joshua 2?
Joshua.
Right. Who does Joshua fight next?
He has to fight Tyson Fury.
I agree.
If he doesn't retire.
If he doesn't retire, he has to fight Tyson Fury. Who wins out of Tyson Fury, Joshua?
I dare not stick my neck out.
Come on. I'm going to throw it out there. I think Tyson Fury conclusively wins that fight, right? But then we have the question.
I can't call that fight.
So he becomes the first 4-belt heavyweight unified champion, right? Then does Tyson Fury retire?
He's got to retire. He's won everything.
I agree. He has to retire because we don't want to see a fourth fight with Deontay. But we've said that now. It's on tape.
Haven't said that yet.
Let's just look at it this way. Usyk, Joshua wins the fight. Let's say that. Yeah? Sorry, the other way around. Usyk wins the fight. Do you want to see Tyson Fury fight Usyk?
No, absolutely not.
Irrespective of the four belt unification?
No, mate. Well,
that's the only reason I want to see that fight.
It wouldn't happen, Ryan. He's too small, man.
I don't think...
he's getting in the ring with Tyson Fury.
That's what I mean. It's ridiculous.
Hello. As great as he is, it's going to be like Canelo and Bivol, isn't it? It's going to be not similar, but worse.
Because this is the thing which scares me. If Joshua wins that fight, Wilder's definitely wanting that fight.
He's just like a vulture hovering around somewhere.
Which means one thing. If Tyson Fury relinquishes his title, who fights for that? What I'm trying to say is Tyson Fury really does need to be in this mix, because if he doesn't, these other guys definitely have the opportunity to be undisputed. First of the 4-belt unifications. I honestly, they go down in history, you know?
Man, I honestly don't think Deontay Wilder's got it in his heart he wants to go out. Fucking, you're gonna have to drag him out the ring by his boots, because that man wants his title. That man, he's got no quit in him. He's got no. He cannot accept the defeat.
It's almost like he's got a mental health problem to the point. I'm not saying he has, but he's obsessed.
He's obsessed with winning,
but winning viciously.
That's bad, isn't it?
Well, we've spoken.
You cannot let boxing. You lace your boots on and you put them gloves on and you go through them ropes.
You're going to war, but in your heart you shouldn't want to be damaging these people.
Damaging anybody, because if you've got that kind of nastiness in you,
I just think it comes back around.
Karma will come and get you. we don't want to mention names with other fighters,
but we've seen it.
We've seen it.
It's a horrible topic. I don't even know if we can get into that.
It's dark. It's dark, and I don't like it. But I just think.
No, you're right. In fact, I would go as far as saying everyone we've seen who's had that real nasty streak of publicly saying they want to do the worst of people, they've all came out really bad.
Do you know? I had this conversation the other day with a lad who I work with, and he's a nice lad, and he knows his boxing a little bit, and he was talking about the return of George Foreman and the George Foreman that was.
And he fought really happy, didn't he? That's the big difference.
Listen to what I'm saying. Prior to that, the early George Foreman, the George Foreman who was Sonny Liston's understudy. People's got to remember that. People who don't know.
People don't know that, man.
He was Sonny Liston's sparring partner for years. And when I read about George and went in depth about it, and George explained, Liston didn't just show him how to fight, but more importantly, he showed him how to intimidate. And when he learned that stare and that growl and that nastiness,
it's the character that he played, wasn't it?
Yes,
you've seen that in his earlier fights.
And when these opponents came in to the ring, they were fucking shitting themselves, man. They're thinking, I mean, you've got this brute looking at you with arms like fucking sledgehammers, and his face was meaner than a grizzly bear's with a fucking migraine. Do you know what I'm saying?
It was a phenomenal blow.
So these men, and believe you me, there were some great men in the early days who we faced. They didn't have a chance. As soon as he landed a shot on them, they crumbled, man. But Big George became humble. He was it the fight he had with Ron Lyle. Yes, he ended up winning Lyle.
That was one of the most. It was in terms of boxing endurance, you'll never quite see a feat of boxing endurance like that ever. Was that the 15-round era as well?
Oh yes, yes.
Well, guys, if you haven't watched that fight, George Foreman, Ron Lyle, watch that fight. You will never see a spectacle of and a feat of boxing endurance quite like that. Them guys, bearing in mind we're talking about big heavyweights, the era of big heavyweights, slug it out. It was how many rounds did it go? 13, 14?
No. It was still in. It was still like it was like a Hagler and Hearns.
It was unbelievable,
type fight for 4 rounds, I think. And Foreman, he knocked Foreman down. Foreman knocked him down. He battered Foreman down again. They thought Foreman was going to get beat anyway. He come back. George Foreman stopped and won the fight. It's the fight after that Foreman had. That I'm trying to think of the fighter's name.
McGob?
No. The heavyweight, and he was a damn good heavyweight, but he was never. Oh God, it'll come to us. But anyway, George Foreman got he got defeated in that fight, but the fight took so much out of George Foreman. He said something happened.
These fights take something out of you spiritually, man.
Something, it'll come to us the name of the fighter. But anyway, he said something happened to me when I went back to the dressing room. He says my soul came out of my body.
He was the African guy, wasn't it? Was it
yes,
an African
yes,
guy?
It was the dark lad.
I can't remember his name now.
But it'll come to us. But anyway, he said, my life was ebbing away from us. He says, I thought I was going to die in the dressing room. He says, and I remember him, he said, he prayed to God, please don't let I'll come back a better person. And he said, in the second coming, when George Foreman, he spent his money when he retired, and he wanted to put a home together for these homeless in a youth club, I think it was, where he lived, for underprivileged kids and this, that and the other. And he wanted to build a church, and he never had the money. He says, but don't worry, I'm coming back to boxing. I've been told that I'm going to come back to boxing, earn enough money to put this all together, and we'll all be fine. And they're like, you what? Right. You're going to put the gloves back on, really?
I'm trying to find that. It was suffering from exhaustion and heat stroke in the dressing room, wasn't he?
Yes.
I'm trying to find it. I've got here.
You tell me his name and I'll tell you after.
It's not coming up. Who
the fight after Lyle.
Well, it doesn't really matter, does it, to be fair?
That's just an instant where karma, like you say, Foreman was a bit of a brute up to that point.
Massive brute.
And whether we like to believe it or not, the boxing world doesn't really like people like that, you know. And people kind of turn against you when you're that kind of fighter. Hence, Sonny Liston, George Foreman.
So George Foreman got defeated off Jimmy Young in Puerto
Jimmy
Rico.
Young, that is him. That is the man, Jimmy Young.
77.
Absolutely.
Says he was suffering from exhaustion and heat stroke when a near-death experience.
Absolutely.
In fact, a heart-stopping pivoting point changed his life.
Yes.
And he stopped boxing for 10 years, did he?
Yes, he stopped boxing. He said, I'm going to build he became a pastor, didn't he? And he said that he was so grateful to have his life back at that point, that he wanted to give something back to the community and the less fortunate and all the rest of it. And he said the funding that he needed to do this was like a lot of money. He said, but he said in a prayer or something, this is what he said. He says in prayer, the voice that said to him, he says, don't worry, George, you're coming back to boxing and you're going to be greater than you were before. And he actually, look, did he or did he not?
Well, I would say he was accepted by the public then as not the brute anymore. As
he
Big
smiled.
George. He was nice. He was happy.
He was happy, man.
He was
lovely.
Almost like, I think, he was perceived as a Frank Bruno type character in boxing.
Man,
do you know what I mean? Because, look, people, didn't matter if Frank won, lose or draw, people love Frank. I love Frank. We all love... It's Frank Bruno, isn't it? You know, and he had the same type of character. But
Foreman, this is what we were going to when you have this... George admitted years later, he said that nastiness, when he looks back on it, he think, it was all an act and it was all passed on from Sonny Liston to George, when George used to spar with him when he was a young lad. And it didn't work, man. It didn't work. People didn't like him, man.
It's one of those things, what goes around comes around. And but hey, look, back onto the point, just to wrap it up there. We've set our bit on who we think's going to potentially win the rematch with Usyk and Joshua. Tyson Fury has to take the unification fight, I think, if and when it comes. When he wins that, well, regardless if he wins it or not, I think Tyson Fury has to retire after that point. I don't think you should retire now.
Tyson Fury is the master of mind games, and the mind games have started right now.
I agree, it's already started.
He is the absolute master. Well, this is what I'm talking about. He's the master of mind games. And believe you me, the one thing on Tyson Fury's mind is having every one of them damn belts. Yeah. And he won't rest until he gets them, one way or the other.
And I think that's probably the perfect way to wrap it up there, guys.
Absolutely.
Final thoughts goes to Dad. Guys, we really appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And yeah, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for stopping by, guys, and come on tomorrow night if my son's not away tomorrow to do the live stream with me.
Yeah, well,
because he may have to be called out to go away to London, but you never know.
Yeah, we'll see what the crack is, guys. But either way, there'll be videos tomorrow anyway. So
peace.
Wherever you are, thanks for watching and have a good evening.